The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows of Dragon's Den Martial Arts Academy as Lisa Chen stood outside the building, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped the worn strap of her old gym bag. At 42 years old, she had never imagined herself standing in front of a martial arts studio. But here she was, 3 weeks after the incident that changed everything. The break-in had happened on a Tuesday night. Lisa had been working late at the city library organizing the children's reading program when her neighbor called. Someone had tried to force their way into her apartment building, though they didn't make it to her specific unit on the 3rd floor. The thought of her 15-year-old daughter Megan being alone and defenseless haunted Lisa every night since then. Taking a deep breath, Lisa pushed open the glass door and stepped inside. The smell of rubber mats and cleaning solution filled her nostrils, mixed with something she couldn't quite identify. Maybe determination, maybe sweat, maybe both. The reception area was small but clean, with certificates and photos covering the walls. Pictures of students in various colored belts performing kicks and throws, tournament trophies gleaming under fluorescent lights, and a large photo of an Asian man in a black belt uniform shaking hands with what looked like a famous martial artist. "You must be Lisa," came a warm voice from behind the counter. A middle-aged Hispanic man with graying temples and kind eyes emerged from a back office. "I'm Master Rodriguez. We spoke on the phone about the beginners' self-defense classes." Lisa nodded, suddenly feeling very aware of her appearance. She had thrown on an old college t-shirt that was 2 sizes too big, black yoga pants that had seen better days, and her ancient running shoes that she mostly used for grocery store trips. Around her she could see other students arriving for what looked like regular classes. They moved with confidence, carried proper equipment bags, and wore pristine white uniforms that screamed, "I belong here." "Don't worry about feeling out of place," Master Rodriguez said gently as if reading her thoughts. "Everyone starts somewhere. The changing rooms are down that hall. The beginner's class meets in the smaller studio to the left." As Lisa made her way toward the changing area, she passed the main training floor where an advanced class was wrapping up. Students in various colored belts were bowing to each other and their instructor. Her attention was caught by one student in particular, a young man who looked to be in his mid-20s wearing a black belt with multiple stripes. He moved with the kind of casual confidence that suggested he had never doubted his place in the world. Tyler Brennan had been training at Dragon's Den for 8 years, earning his 3rd-degree black belt just 6 months ago. At 26, he was Master Rodriguez's assistant instructor and took great pride in his status within the school. He had the build of someone who spent serious time in the gym, broad shoulders, defined arms, and the kind of posture that announced his physical capabilities to anyone paying attention. As the advanced class ended, Tyler began helping to put away equipment when he noticed the new face heading toward the changing rooms. He nudged his training partner, Kevin, with his elbow. "Check out the new student," Tyler said with barely concealed amusement. "Looks like we're getting another soccer mom trying to learn how to throw a punch." Kevin, a 2nd-degree black belt, glanced over and shrugged. "Man, cut her some slack, at least she's trying to learn something." Tyler laughed. "Trying is one thing, but look at her. She looks terrified to even be in here. I give her 2 classes before she quits and goes back to her book club or whatever." The truth was, Tyler had grown up with every advantage. His parents had enrolled him in martial arts when he was 8 years old, paying for private lessons and competition training. He had earned his black belt by 18 and had never really struggled with anything physical. The idea that someone could start training in their 40s, especially someone who looked as nervous as Lisa did, struck him as almost comical. Meanwhile, Lisa had managed to change into her workout clothes and was making her way to the smaller studio. The beginner's class consisted of about 12 people, ranging in age from teenagers to a few people in their 50s. She felt a small wave of relief seeing that she wasn't the oldest person there, and that several other students also looked like they were fighting their own battles with nervousness. Master Rodriguez introduced her to the class, and they began with basic stretching and warm-up exercises. Lisa found herself surprised by how much she enjoyed the simple movements. There was something calming about focusing entirely on her body and breath, something that helped quiet the anxious voice in her head that had been chattering nonstop since the break-in. As they moved through basic stances and simple punching techniques, Lisa began to feel a tiny spark of something she hadn't felt in years. Not confidence exactly, but maybe the possibility of confidence. Her body seemed to remember how to move in ways she had forgotten, muscle memory awakening from a long sleep. Through the glass windows that separated the two studios, Tyler occasionally glanced over at the beginners class. He watched Lisa stumble slightly through a basic front kick and shook his head. This should be interesting, he muttered to himself as he practiced his own advanced forms. Master Rodriguez, meanwhile, found himself impressed with Lisa's dedication. While some of the other beginners were chatting or taking frequent water breaks, Lisa remained focused, asking thoughtful questions and practicing each technique repeatedly until she felt she had understood it correctly. "I want to be able to protect my daughter," she had told him during their phone conversation. "I need to know that if something happens, I won't just freeze up." As the class ended and students began filtering out, Lisa felt a mixture of exhaustion and accomplishment. Her muscles ached in ways they hadn't in years, but it was a good ache, the kind that promised strength to come. She gathered her things, slowly, not eager to return to the apartment where she would spend another evening checking and rechecking the locks, jumping at every sound in the hallway. The martial arts studio felt safe in a way her home no longer did. Tyler finished his own training and was packing up his gear bag when he overheard Lisa talking quietly with Master Rodriguez. "Same time next week?" she was asking. "Absolutely," Master Rodriguez replied. "You did great today, Lisa. I can tell you're going to be a dedicated student." Tyler almost snorted. Dedicated, maybe, but natural talent was something entirely different. He had seen dozens of adult beginners come and go over the years. They all started with good intentions, but when the training got serious, when they realized how much work real martial arts required, most of them disappeared. As Lisa walked toward the exit, Tyler felt a mischievous impulse growing in his mind. Maybe it would be educational for her to see what real martial arts looked like. Maybe a little reality check would save her from wasting time on something she clearly wasn't cut out for. He would wait for the right moment, but Tyler was already planning how he might give this nervous librarian a lesson she wouldn't forget. 3 weeks had passed since Lisa's first class, and she had surprised everyone, including herself, by showing up consistently twice a week. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, she would arrive 15 minutes early, change into her now familiar workout clothes, and practice the basic techniques they had learned in previous sessions. Master Rodriguez had begun to notice something special about Lisa's dedication. While other beginners would chat during water breaks or check their phones between exercises, Lisa remained focused, asking detailed questions about proper form and practicing each movement until it felt natural. She had even purchased her own pair of training gloves and proper workout shoes, replacing the old sneakers she had worn that first day. Tyler, however, remained unimpressed. He watched from the advanced class as Lisa worked through her basic punches and kicks, noting what he saw as obvious flaws in her technique. To him, she still looked like someone playing at martial arts rather than actually learning them. The way she held back during partner drills, her hesitation before attempting new techniques, and her constant questions all reinforced his belief that she was out of her league. On this particular Thursday evening, Master Rodriguez had decided to combine the beginner and intermediate classes for a special session on practical self-defense. The gym was more crowded than usual, with students of various skill levels spread across the main training floor. "Tonight we're going to work on real-world scenarios," Master Rodriguez announced to the mixed group. "I want everyone to understand that martial arts isn't just about perfect technique in controlled situations. It's about adapting to unexpected circumstances and staying calm under pressure." Lisa felt her stomach tighten with nervous energy. She had been comfortable in the smaller beginner classes, but being surrounded by students who moved with such obvious skill and confidence made her feel like an imposter again. She positioned herself toward the back of the group, hoping to blend in and observe rather than participate in anything too advanced. Tyler positioned himself near the front as usual, where Master Rodriguez could see his perfect form and where the newer students could witness his abilities. He had been looking forward to this combined class as an opportunity to demonstrate the gap between real martial artists and weekend warriors. The class began with warm-up exercises that everyone could do together, followed by basic technique drills. Master Rodriguez paired students of similar experience levels, but as the evening progressed and they moved into more complex scenarios, the skill differences became more apparent. "Now we're going to work on light contact sparring," Master Rodriguez explained. "This isn't about winning or losing, it's about applying the techniques you've learned in a controlled, safe environment. Remember, the goal is to learn, not to prove anything." Lisa's heart began racing. She had never sparred with anyone before, even in the lightest contact situation. All of her training had been against punching bags or thin air. The thought of actually facing another person, even in a controlled setting, brought back all the fears that had driven her to take these classes in the first place. Master Rodriguez began pairing up students, carefully matching skill levels and body sizes. Lisa found herself paired with Janet, a woman in her 30s who had been training for about 6 months. They began slowly, working through basic combinations while barely making contact with each other. From across the room, Tyler was working with another advanced student, but his attention kept drifting to Lisa. He could see her hesitation, the way she pulled her punches even in a light contact drill, and the obvious tension in her shoulders. To Tyler, it confirmed everything he had thought about her. She was someone who talked about wanting to learn self-defense but didn't have the warrior spirit actually needed for combat. About halfway through the sparring session, Master Rodriguez called for everyone to switch partners. This was meant to give students experience with different fighting styles and body types, but it also meant that the careful skill level matching from the beginning was about to get mixed up. Tyler saw his opportunity. He had been waiting weeks for the right moment to show Lisa what real martial arts looked like, and this seemed perfect. As students began moving around to find new partners, Tyler walked directly over to where Lisa was standing. "Mind if I work with you for this round?" Tyler asked, flashing what he thought was a friendly smile, but there was something in his tone that made several nearby students look over curiously. Lisa looked up at Tyler, immediately feeling intimidated. He was at least 6 inches taller than her, clearly in excellent physical condition, and wearing that black belt like a badge of authority. But she had committed to learning, and backing down now would feel like giving up on herself. "I'm still pretty new to this," Lisa said quietly, hoping he would reconsider. "Don't worry about it," Tyler replied, loud enough for others to hear. "It'll be good practice for you to work with someone who knows what they're doing. You can learn a lot from seeing proper technique up close." Master Rodriguez overheard the conversation and walked over, sensing something off about the situation. "Tyler, maybe Lisa should stick with partners closer to her experience level." But Tyler was ready for this. "Master Rodriguez, you always tell us that in real life, attackers aren't going to match our skill level. Wouldn't it be valuable for Lisa to experience what it's like to face someone with more training? I'll keep it super light, obviously." Several other students had stopped their own training to watch this conversation unfold. Lisa felt her face growing warm with embarrassment as she realized she had become the center of attention. The last thing she wanted was to seem afraid or unwilling to learn. "It's okay," Lisa said quietly, though her voice betrayed her nervousness. "I can handle it." Master Rodriguez hesitated for a moment, but Tyler's logic was sound from a training perspective, and Lisa had agreed. "All right, but keep it very light, Tyler. This is about learning, not proving points." Tyler nodded and bowed respectfully to Lisa, following proper martial arts etiquette. But inside, he was already planning how this would go. He would let her attempt a few techniques, easily defend against them, and then demonstrate some basic counters that would show her how much she still had to learn. It would be educational for everyone watching and might help Lisa understand that martial arts required years of dedication, not just a few weeks of casual training. As they faced each other on the mat, Lisa could feel the eyes of the entire class on them. Her mouth was dry and her heart was pounding so hard she was sure Tyler could hear it. She tried to remember everything she had learned about proper stance and guard position, but her mind was racing with doubt. Tyler stood relaxed and confident, not even bothering to raise his hands into a proper fighting stance. To him, this was Going to be like sparring with a child. He just needed to be careful not to hurt her feelings too badly. Master Rodriguez called for them to begin, and Tyler waited for Lisa to make the first move. He wanted to let her try whatever she thought she had learned before showing her what real skill looked like. What happened next would be talked about in the gym for months to come. Lisa stood across from Tyler on the mat, her heart hammering against her ribs as 20 pairs of eyes watched them. The gymnasium had grown noticeably quieter, with even the students who had been practicing their own drills stopping to observe what was about to unfold. Tyler bounced lightly on the balls of his feet, still maintaining that relaxed, almost casual stance that suggested he was barely taking this seriously. He gestured with one hand for Lisa to come forward. "Go ahead," he said with what he thought was an encouraging smile. "Show me some of those punches you've been working on." Lisa took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing pulse. Something strange was happening inside her mind. The nervousness was still there, but underneath it something else was stirring. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time. She took a step forward and threw a basic jab, the kind she had practiced hundreds of times over the past 3 weeks. It was tentative, carefully controlled, exactly what Tyler expected from a beginner. Tyler effortlessly moved his head to one side, letting the punch pass harmlessly by his face. "Good, try," he said loud enough for the watching students to hear. "But you need to commit more to your techniques. In a real situation, hesitation could be dangerous." A few students nodded knowingly. This was going exactly as they had expected, the experienced fighter giving gentle instruction to the newcomer. Tyler was already planning his next move, a simple arm trap that would allow him to demonstrate proper counterattacking technique. Lisa reset her stance and tried again, this time with a combination: jab, cross, just like she had practiced. But again, her movements were careful, almost apologetic. Tyler stepped inside her guard easily, catching her extended arm and preparing to show her how a real martial artist would respond to such an opening. "See, when you overextend like this," he began, starting to demonstrate a basic arm drag that would put Lisa off balance. "You leave yourself vulnerable to—" That's when everything changed. The moment Tyler's hands made contact with Lisa's arm, something shifted in her entire being. Her eyes, which had been wide with nervous energy just seconds before, suddenly became focused and calm. Her breathing steadied. Her shoulders dropped into a position of relaxed readiness that looked nothing like the tense beginner stance she had maintained all evening. Tyler felt the change immediately. The arm he was attempting to control had somehow become completely relaxed, yet unmovable. It was like trying to manipulate water. There was no resistance to work against, but also no leverage to gain. Lisa's response came so smoothly that most of the watching students almost missed it. As Tyler tried to complete his demonstration technique, she simply stepped at an angle, her body flowing like liquid around his attempted control. Tyler found himself pulled forward by his own momentum, stumbling slightly as Lisa moved out of the way. The gym fell silent except for the sound of Tyler's feet shuffling on the mat as he regained his balance. He turned around, confusion replacing the confidence on his face. "That was—" "Let me try that again," Tyler said, his voice carrying a note of uncertainty that hadn't been there before. Lisa said nothing, but her stance had transformed completely. Where before she had looked like someone pretending to be a fighter, now she stood with the kind of natural balance that took years to develop. Her feet were positioned perfectly, her weight distributed in a way that suggested she could move in any direction without preparation. Tyler approached more seriously this time, attempting a basic takedown that he had used successfully against dozens of opponents. He shot forward, aiming to grab Lisa around the waist and bring her to the ground, a technique that should have been impossible for a beginner to defend against. Lisa's response was so fast that several students later swore they hadn't seen exactly what happened. One moment Tyler was driving forward with what looked like perfect technique, and the next moment he was flying through the air, landing flat on his back with a loud thump that echoed throughout the gym. The silence that followed was deafening. Tyler lay on the mat for a moment, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what had just occurred. He had been thrown, not pushed, not tripped, but thrown with a technique so clean and efficient that he couldn't even identify exactly what Lisa had done. Kevin, Tyler's usual training partner, unconsciously took a step backward. Janet, who had been Lisa's first sparring partner, stood with her mouth hanging open. Even Master Rodriguez, who had seen thousands of techniques over his 20 years of teaching, was staring at Lisa with a look of growing recognition. Tyler rolled to his feet, his face now flushed with embarrassment and confusion. The casual confidence he had carried into this interaction was completely gone, replaced by something that looked almost like panic. "What? How did you?" Tyler started to say, but the words died in his throat. Lisa hadn't moved from where she stood. She wasn't gloating or celebrating. She wasn't even breathing hard. She just watched Tyler with those calm, focused eyes that seemed to belong to a completely different person than the nervous beginner who had walked into the gym an hour earlier. "I'm sorry," Lisa said quietly, and for the first time that evening, her voice carried no nervousness at all. "I didn't mean to throw you so hard. Are you hurt?" Tyler shook his head, still trying to understand what had happened. He was a third-degree black belt. He had trained for 8 years. He had competed in tournaments and won trophies. Nervous. Middle-aged women who had been training for 3 weeks did not throw him across the room like he was a practice dummy, but that's exactly what had just happened. Master Rodriguez stepped onto the mat, his eyes never leaving Lisa's face. There was something about the way she moved, something about that perfect balance and the effortless way she had dealt with Tyler's attacks, that was triggering memories in his mind. "Lisa," Master Rodriguez said slowly, "where did you train before? Coming here?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Every student in the gym was now focused entirely on Lisa, waiting for her answer. Tyler pulled himself to his feet, brushing off his uniform, but his eyes remained fixed on the woman who had just made him question everything he thought he knew about martial arts. Lisa looked around the room at all the expectant faces, then back at Master Rodriguez. For a moment she seemed to be wrestling with whether to answer the question honestly. "It was a long time ago," she said finally. "A very long time ago." Tyler stepped forward again, but this time there was no arrogance in his posture. He was moving like someone approaching a wild animal, carefully, respectfully, and with the growing realization that he had made a terrible miscalculation. "Who are you?" Tyler asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lisa looked at him for a long moment, and Tyler could see something in her eyes that made his stomach drop. It was the look of someone who had forgotten more about fighting than he had ever learned. The revelation was about to change everything they thought they knew about the quiet librarian who just wanted to learn basic self-defense. The silence in the gym stretched on for what felt like hours, though it was probably only seconds. Master Rodriguez continued to stare at Lisa, his mind racing through memories that were 15 years old. The way she moved, the effortless technique, the perfect balance, it was all triggering something in the back of his mind. Lisa stood perfectly still, her calm exterior hiding the storm of emotions raging inside her. She had worked so hard to leave that part of her life behind, to become just another ordinary person living an ordinary life. But muscle memory was a powerful thing, and the moment Tyler had grabbed her arm, her body had responded with techniques she had practiced thousands of times in another lifetime. "The way you threw him," Master Rodriguez said slowly, taking a step closer to Lisa. "That wasn't something you learned in 3 weeks of beginner classes. That was competition-level judo." Tyler, who was still processing his own humiliation, looked back and forth between Master Rodriguez and Lisa. "Judo?" he repeated. "But she said she was a complete beginner." Lisa closed her eyes for a moment, knowing that her carefully constructed new life was about to crumble. When she opened them again, she looked directly at Master Rodriguez. "I never lied about being new to your classes," she said quietly. "I just didn't mention that I had trained before." "How long before?" Master Rodriguez pressed gently. Lisa took a deep breath. "I stopped competing 15 years ago." Master Rodriguez walked over to the wall where dozens of martial arts magazines and tournament photos were displayed. He had been studying these publications for decades, and something about Lisa's technique was nagging at a very specific memory. His eyes scanned the older photos and magazine covers until he found what he was looking for. Olympic Games Athens 2004, he said, pulling down a framed magazine cover. Women's Judo, 57-kilogram division. The cover showed a young woman in a white judo gi, holding a bronze medal and beaming with pride. Her hair was different, longer and pulled back in a ponytail, and she was obviously much younger. But the face was unmistakably Lisa's. Lisa Chen, Master Rodriguez read from the caption. Bronze medalist in women's judo, 3-time national champion. A collective gasp went up from the students who had gathered around. Kevin grabbed the magazine from Master Rodriguez's hands, studying the photo closely. "Holy shit," Kevin whispered, then immediately apologized for his language. "Sorry, Master Rodriguez, but this is really her?" Lisa felt her face burning with embarrassment, but not the same kind she had felt earlier when she was afraid of looking weak. This was the embarrassment of having a secret exposed, of having to explain why she had walked away from everything she had worked her entire life to achieve. "That was a very long time ago," Lisa said, her voice barely audible over the murmur of excited conversation that had broken out among the students. Tyler stood frozen, the magazine shaking slightly in his hands as he stared at the photo. An Olympic medalist. He had challenged an Olympic medalist to a sparring match as a joke. He had treated a 3-time national champion like she was some clueless soccer mom who didn't belong in a martial arts gym. "I don't understand," Tyler said, his voice cracking slightly. If you were, why are you here? Taking beginner classes?" Lisa looked around the room at all the curious faces staring at her. These were good people, she realized. They weren't judging her or making fun of her. They were just confused, trying to understand how someone with her background had ended up in their basic self-defense class. "Because I haven't been Lisa Chen the judoka for 15 years, she said, her voice growing stronger. "I've been Lisa Chen the librarian, Lisa Chen the single mother, Lisa Chen the woman who was too scared to sleep at night after someone tried to break into her building." Master Rodriguez set the magazine down and gestured for the other students to give Lisa some space. He could see that this was difficult for her, and he understood that there was probably a painful story behind her disappearance from competitive martial arts. "You don't have to explain anything you don't want to," he said gently. "But I think I speak for everyone here when I say we'd be honored to hear your story." Lisa looked around the room again, seeing genuine interest and respect in the faces looking back at her. Even Tyler, despite his obvious embarrassment, was listening intently. "My husband died in a car accident in 2009, Lisa began, her voice steady but soft. "David was my coach, my training partner, my everything. We had been married for 2 years and we were planning to have children after the 2012 Olympics." The room was completely silent now, everyone understanding that they were hearing something deeply personal. "After the accident, I couldn't train anymore. Every time I stepped onto a mat, all I could think about was David. He had been pushing me to compete in London, to go for gold this time instead of bronze. But without him, I lost all my fight." Tyler felt his stomach twist, with guilt. He had been so focused on showing off, on proving his superiority over someone he had dismissed as weak, that he had never considered what might have brought Lisa to their gym in the first place. "I moved here to start over," Lisa continued. "I got my library science degree, found a job, and tried to build a normal life. I met someone else eventually and we had Megan, but that relationship didn't work out either. For the past 5 years it's just been me and my daughter, and that's been enough." "So why come back to martial arts now?" Master Rodriguez asked. Lisa's expression hardened slightly, and for a moment everyone could see a flash of the competitor she had once been. 3 weeks ago someone tried to break into our apartment building. They didn't make it to our unit, but they got close. I realized that I had spent so many years running away from who I used to be that I had forgotten how to protect myself, or my daughter. I was terrified and I hated feeling that way. She looked directly at Tyler, who was still holding the magazine with her photo on the cover. "I didn't come here to prove anything to anyone," she said. "I came here because I needed To remember how to be strong again. I needed to remember that I don't have to be afraid. Tyler slowly handed the magazine back to Master Rodriguez, his face burning with shame. He had assumed so much about Lisa based on nothing more than her appearance and her nervousness. He had turned her genuine attempt to reclaim her strength into a joke for his own amusement. "I'm sorry," Tyler said, and this time his voice was completely sincere. "I'm really, really sorry. I had no right to do what I did." Lisa studied his face for a moment, then nodded slightly. "You couldn't have known. But maybe this is a lesson for both of us about making assumptions." Master Rodriguez stepped forward, looking at Lisa with obvious respect. "Would you consider teaching some classes here? Our advanced students could learn so much from someone with your experience." Lisa was quiet for a moment, considering the offer. Teaching would mean fully embracing who she used to be, something she hadn't done in 15 years. But looking around, at the faces of the students, especially Tyler, who was clearly wrestling with some hard truths about himself, she realized that maybe it was time to stop running from her past. "I'll think about it," she said finally. What happened next would determine not just Lisa's future, but Tyler's as well. The following Tuesday evening, Lisa arrived at Dragon's Den Martial Arts Academy 15 minutes early, just as she had for the past month. But this time felt completely different. Word had spread quickly through the gym about what had happened during the combined class, and Lisa could feel the change in how people looked at her as she walked through the front door. Instead of the polite nods she used to receive from other students, people were stopping their conversations to watch her pass. Some smiled and waved enthusiastically. Others whispered excitedly to their training partners. A few of the teenage students even approached her for autographs, having looked up videos of her Olympic matches online over the weekend. Lisa felt overwhelmed by the attention. For 15 years, she had lived in comfortable anonymity, and suddenly everyone wanted to know about her past achievements. Part of her wanted to turn around and leave, to go back to her quiet life, where nobody expected anything from her except checking out library books and helping with homework. But another part of her, the part that had been slowly awakening over the past month, knew that running away again would be a mistake. Master Rodriguez was waiting for her near the reception desk, holding a cup of coffee and wearing a thoughtful expression. "How are you handling all this?" he asked gently. Lisa shrugged, setting down her gear bag. "It's strange. I've gotten more attention in the past few days than I have in 15 years. My daughter keeps showing her friends the old competition videos she found on YouTube, and how does that feel?" Lisa was quiet for a moment, watching through the window as students in the main studio worked through their warm-up routines. "Scary," she admitted. "But also, I don't know. Maybe it's time to stop pretending that part of my life never happened." Master Rodriguez nodded knowingly. "I've been thinking about your answer to my offer, about teaching some classes here." "I've been thinking about it too," Lisa replied. "But I'm not sure I'm ready to be responsible for other people's training again. What if I've forgotten too much? What if I can't connect with students the way David always could?" Before Master Rodriguez could respond, they were interrupted by someone clearing their throat behind them. They turned to see Tyler standing there looking nervous and holding what appeared to be a handwritten letter. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Tyler said, his voice much quieter than usual. "Lisa, could I talk to you for a minute? If you're not too busy, I mean." Lisa looked at Master Rodriguez, who nodded encouragingly. "Of course." Tyler led her to a quiet corner of the reception area, away from the other students who were arriving. For evening classes, he seemed to be struggling with how to begin. "I wrote this over the weekend," he said, holding out the letter. "But now I think I should just say it instead of making you read my terrible handwriting." Lisa waited patiently while Tyler gathered his thoughts. "I've been training here for 8 years, Tyler began. "I started when I was 18, right out of high school. Master Rodriguez has always taught us that martial arts is about respect, discipline, and helping others grow. But somewhere along the way, I think I forgot those lessons." He paused, running his hand through his hair nervously. "I became so focused on being good at fighting that I forgot what it means to be a good martial artist. When I saw you in that First class, I didn't see someone who was trying to learn and grow. I just saw someone I thought I was better than. Lisa could see that this was genuinely difficult for Tyler to say. The confident, cocky young man from a week ago had been replaced by someone who was clearly questioning everything he thought he knew about himself. The thing is, Tyler continued, after I found out who you really are, I spent the weekend watching videos of your competitions. And what impressed me wasn't just how good you were at judo, it was how you treated your opponents. Even when you won, you always helped them up, always bowed respectfully, always acted like you knew you had learned something from them. Tyler looked directly at Lisa for the first time since the conversation began. I want to learn how to be that kind of martial artist, he said. Not just someone who's good at techniques, but someone who makes other people better too. Would you consider letting me be one of your students? If you decide to teach here, I mean. Lisa was genuinely surprised by Tyler's request. She had expected an apology, maybe even a promise to leave her alone. She hadn't expected him to ask to learn from her. Tyler, she said carefully, why do you think I would be willing to teach you after what happened? Tyler was quiet for a moment. Because you threw me across that mat and then the first thing you did was ask if I was hurt. Even after I had been disrespectful to you, even after I had tried to embarrass you in front of everyone, your first concern was whether you had accidentally injured me. He gestured toward the main training floor, where students were beginning their evening classes. That's the kind of person I want to learn from. Not someone who's just physically strong, but someone who's strong in here. He tapped his chest, where it really matters. Lisa felt something shift inside her chest. For weeks, she had been coming to these classes to learn how to protect herself and her daughter. But listening to Tyler talk about wanting to become a better person, she realized that maybe she had something more valuable to offer than just self-defense techniques. If I decide to teach, Lisa said slowly, it won't be easy. I'll expect complete commitment, perfect attitude, and genuine respect for every other student in the class. I understand, Tyler replied immediately, and if you ever, and I mean ever, treat another student the way you treated me that first night, you'll find yourself thrown a lot harder than you were last week. Tyler actually smiled at that. Understood completely. Lisa looked around the gym, watching Master Rodriguez work with a group of teenagers, seeing Janet practice her kicks with determined focus, observing Kevin help a newer student with proper stance. This place had become more than just a training facility for her. It had become a community where people supported each other's growth. All right, Lisa said finally. I'll talk to Master Rodriguez about starting a class for advanced students. But Tyler? Yes? You're not going to be in the advanced class at first. You're going to start over with the basics, learning proper respect and humility along with your techniques. Tyler's face lit up with genuine excitement. Thank you. Really. I know I don't deserve this chance, but I won't waste it. As they walked back toward Master Rodriguez, Lisa felt something she hadn't experienced in 15 years. Excitement about teaching martial arts again. Not the pressure-filled coaching she had known in competition, but the pure joy of helping someone become the best version of themselves. 3 months later, Dragon's Den Martial Arts Academy had a new advanced class taught by Olympic bronze medalist Lisa Chen. Her students included Tyler, who had indeed started over with basic techniques and was slowly earning back the respect of his fellow martial artists through genuine humility and hard work. But more importantly, Lisa had rediscovered something she thought she had lost forever, the ability to be strong not just for herself but for others who needed to learn that same strength. And late at night, when she checked the locks on her apartment door, Lisa no longer felt afraid. She felt ready.